The Holy Gospel according to Mark 7. Now, when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they are thoroughly washed, thus observing the tradition of their elders. And they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And they have washed it in their bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and the scribes asked Jesus, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of our elders, but eat with defiled hands?" Jesus said to them, "Isaiah prophesied rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandoned the commandment of God and hold to human tradition." Then he called the crowd again and said to them, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand this. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but that comes out are what defiles. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication and theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, and folly. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person." This is the gospel of our Lord. Please be seated. This week I told Ron, I said, "Oh my." I said, "I have not written a sermon since before I left for Thailand." I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do this week." Yesterday, we got our mail, and in it was a magazine from Luther, and in there is an article by Bishop Moss, the Bishop of the Nebraska Synod. And he has an article that he has written about his time at the Triennial Youth Gathering that took place in Houston this summer. And I read it, and I said, I found my sermon. So we go another week without writing a sermon. But don't tell anybody. So these words you'll hear right now are from Bishop Moss. "This changes everything." That was the theme of the 2018 ELCA Youth Gathering, a once every 3 years event that is one of the most outstanding things we do together as church. More than 30,000 young people gather for 5 days of changing the lives of others through service, and for having their lives changed through worship, Bible study, fellowship, interactive learning experiences, and of course, service. But "This changes everything" is more than a one-time event theme. It's a reality we're invited into to experience every day. My fear is we don't. Or more accurately, we do, but we don't recognize it. The Small Catechism reminds us that baptism is a daily thing. Every morning we die to all of our yesterday's sins, failures, and disappointments, and a new self, the self that God creates and gives us to be, rises up to live a new day, new opportunities, a new life. That's incredible. And it happens whether we recognize it or not. But what a difference when we do. God grants that miracle and daily. Grants that miracle daily. Wait a minute. But what are they? God grants that miracle daily through sheer grace. God grants us that daily through sheer grace. Me and Bishop don't always talk the same way. Okay. Sometimes we are blinded by it. I'm burdened by yesterday, and I'm aware of it. That burden lifts, and today it's a whole new possibility. That change is real for both congregations and individuals. Come in, Arlene. The whole purpose of our gathering weekly for worship and fellowship isn't to fulfill some obligation or duty, to check in on old friends, to see if there's anything entertaining in the sermon or old favorites on the hymn board. The whole purpose of gathering as church is to hear again and to be reminded one with another that this changes everything. The gospel of God's grace through faith in Jesus Christ means for the despairing, welcome for the outcast, peace for the traumatized, rest for the weary, and inspiration to all. When a congregation remembers its purpose, when it gathers around word and sacrament to be renewed for living, that experience changes everything. But when a congregation forgets its purpose, when members gather for any other reason, habit, duty, sustaining a building, organizing good deeds, it all falls short of what the Spirit is there waiting for us to do. When a congregation remembers its purpose, people don't leave worship the same way as when they arrived. What's your experience of life in your congregation? How often do you leave thinking, this changes everything? And if the answer is, not very often, or God forbid, never, what are you prepared to do about it? This isn't a matter of the pastor preaching thundering sermons or your worship leaders blaring inspirational music, though we could always use a little more of the Spirit's energy. It's a matter of each member who gathers, recognizing and sharing what God is up to in their lives and in the world. It's a matter of banding together to hold one another up, to talk about our faith and to ask, what does this mean every time we hear the word? The world is searching for the place and the people where this happens. We can be those people. We are those people when we recognize and share anew that this changes everything. Those are Bishop's words. These are my words. Our readings this morning could not fit better, which I know is horrible English, but it's true. In James we heard, we are people who are called to serve and do and be and to care one for another. Whether that be here in Niobrara, or there in Omaha, or there in India, or there in wherever, we are called to be those children. And when we do those things, it changes everything. Not only for us as the giver, but for those who are the receiver, and for those who have only been on the outside looking in. An exchange is rarely only two people, because there are so many around you who either have seen what you've done to lead up to that, or to observe the giver, giving, and the receiver of that gift, those people have seen how it has changed that person. You can change everything. How exciting is that? Yeah, Pastor, that's pretty darn exciting. Yes, I know it is. That's why God gave me my voice today, because I desperately needed it. This changes everything. You here today, listening, hopefully to me, changes you. And I hope it changes how you feel when you leave these doors today. We are called as children of God, not as members of Faith United Parish, not as Christians, not as anything other than God's children, to go, do, and be. Does it have to be huge and miraculous? No, it does not. It has to be from the heart. So on September 30th, when Susan from Lutheran Family Services comes and receives those 3,500 diapers, look in the back of Ron's pickup. You'll see what 3,500 diapers look like. That will change the lives of recipients. Yes, a pack of 12 or 24 diapers will change the lives of that family who receives them. Believe it or not. You make that happen. Susan makes that happen on behalf of us. And that family goes and says, wow, thank you. You've done that. In this world today, where we see such division among ourselves, sometimes our words change everything, and not in a good way. Sometimes we let other people's words get into our heads, and we just black it back out without thinking about what we're saying and how we're saying it and to whom we are saying. Husbands and wives, we've done it. We do it. We come home from a bad day and our spouse says one thing and we're like, what the heck? Why are you talking to me right now? Is it their fault you just came home from a bad day? Do they know you've just come home from a bad day? They do now. Poor Ron. Poor Ron. Pray for him. Sometimes coming home isn't a pleasure. For him. From me coming home. Our words, the way we say our words, we can say, yeah, I love you, dummy. Or we can say, I love you, and I am so glad I've come home to you. Which one do you want to hear? We want to hear what God would say to us. We're glad you're home, and we love you. I'm glad I come home to you, and I do love you. Even when sometimes the words don't sound like it. Confession. Thank you, Miss Shirley. That is honesty of preaching. Who we are, what we do, what we say, how we act and live, all changes everything. Everything. This afternoon, when we go and celebrate 50 years of marriage with Bob and Darlene, I hope when you leave that space this afternoon, you'll go, I am so lucky to have you in my life. Thank you for being my partner. Thank you for being my son. Thank you for being my daughter. I want you to see this example that 50 years of marriage is still a reality. This is my child standing here. That's what I'm talking to. That's what we want you to feel when you leave this celebration. 50 years. I'm only 6 years older than that. I was 6 years old. I could have been your flower girl. You change everything. And when we remember who we are and whose we are, together we are unstoppable. Let us put aside any words from the past that keeps us from being completely present here in the future. Today is a new day, and all those words that might have hurt you, kept you from doing whatever, let's put that in the past today. Truly put it in the past. And from here, let us all move forward. So that when we come together, whether it's on a Sunday morning or a Thursday morning at the cafe or at coffee on the rest of the week, when we come together, let us remember that we can change everything. Even if in our lifetime, we may not see how that plays out. You, me, we can change everything. So go forth from this place this morning and say, this changes everything. And all God's children say, Amen. Amen. I invite you to stand as you are able as we sing hymn 367, Jesus, Jesus.